Happy Sunday and welcome everyone. You know what day it is and what time it is. It is Sunday, 5 p.m. at my time, whether you watch it right now live or if you catch the rebroadcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon. My name is Beverly Johnson, owner of Genesis Fitness. I am a health coach and personal trainer. And for a lot of people, they ask themselves, what does that really mean? And what a health coach does is twofold as a health coach and a trainer. As a health coach, my job is to help you create strategies to get unstuck because we all get stuck sometimes and we are not sure how to pivot and move on. So, my job is to partner with you and help develop a solution, manageable solutions to help you attain your goals. Now, the trainer part, that's the execution arm. Coach is to give you strategies and insights. The trainer, well, I tell you what to do then. Then, yes, I tell you what to do. The coach encourages, but the trainer, we execute. I for real tell you what to do then. But it's all based on your strategy and what you say your goals are. Because again, no adult likes to be told what to do. So my goal is when we work together, it is to put your plan into action, create strategies, hold you accountable. I'm your cheerleader. I'm your accountability coach. I'm your comedian. I'm what you need in that space to help you achieve your goals. I don't promise you that the journey is going to be easy, but I do promise that I will do my best to help you attain your goals. It's going to be work, but I always believe that you are well worth the investment that you're willing to make into yourself. So we're going to talk about the topic before I go on any further. For everyone that reached out to me while I was gone last week, for those that don't know, last week I went to Las Vegas for the bestie birthday trip. And yesterday there was a shooting in Las Vegas. A local hookah bar, I believe, was targeted. And I think at the last count, I think one person lost their life and 14 were injured. So thank you to everyone that reached out to me while I was gone to make sure that I'm okay. That is gratitude that I can't even begin to thank you for. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your calls. Thank you for making sure that I was okay. So without further ado, what we're going to talk about today as we bring the end of Black History Month to a close. For those that didn't know, the theme for Black History Month was health and wellness. So over the course of the last few weeks, I've tried to bring things to light that are key things that are plaguing our community. Key things such as heart disease. Hey, mama. That's my mama, y'all. That's my mama. That's my mama. Okay, I'm back because I love my mama. So key things that we talk about in our community. Heart disease. For women, that is the number one killer, heart disease. High blood pressure. Diabetes. All those things are high in our community. Hey, Tyron, how are you? And the scary thing about those three things is that they all mirror the same symptoms. They all have similar symptoms. So at times you really won't know what's going on until you go see a doctor. So in those spaces where you feel you're constantly fatigued, you're constantly having headaches, heaven forbid you're having nosebleeds, you're having joint pain, that is your body telling you that something is going on and that it is requiring your attention ASAP. My favorite analogy is hopefully, let me preface that, hopefully, when you get in your car and you see the check engine light on, you just don't keep driving and say it'll go out immediately. Or hopefully you don't keep driving your car without getting oil changes, without getting services. Hopefully you don't. Because you know that if something goes wrong with that motor, the engine, the transmission, it's going to cost you more in the long run than to have preventative maintenance. Because preventative maintenance on our vehicles is how we get the full life out of it. We'll upgrade where we used to with the whole world situation. You would put in premium. Hey, Latoya. Hey, beautiful. You will put in premium in your car. You get the oil changes. You get your tires rotated. You get your car service because you want the best life out of your car. So I'm going to ask you, why aren't you investing that in yourself? We'll get our car service. We'll make sure we change the air filters, the air conditioner filters in our house. We'll change the water filter in the refrigerator. We'll do all the maintenances required for our material things because we want them to have the best life possible, even by the extended warranties, which you may or may not use. But when it comes to our health and our investments, we sometimes become lackadaisical. And I really hope that over the course of our lifespan, we work to change that narrative. So as we talked about the last 3 weeks, things that can make you sick, as one broadcaster that I listened to, Joe Madison, his thing is, what are you going to do about it? And that's pretty much what we're going to talk about today. What are you going to do about it? Because in order for us to live a long, healthy, prosperous life, that requires us to change our narrative and take control of our own outlook. I've always hated the phrase, if I get sick, I get sick. Well, I don't want to just, if I get sick, I get sick. If I die, I die. Hold that negative ghostwriter. The pattern is full because I'm not going to prematurely end my assignment here on earth. As opposed to just saying, I need to take ownership of my path. I need to take ownership of what I'm going to do for myself. Because I've always found it funny that if your bestie, loved one, sat across from you and they totally downed themselves, they totally marginalized themselves, they always talked about everything that they wouldn't do, you would stop them in mid-conversation. Like, that is not who you are, and you're better than that. However, when it comes to self-reflect, introspection, self-determination, sometimes we'll be like, well, you know what, I'll be all right. And hopefully we learn to change that narrative and say, you know what, I'm supposed to be doing something tremendous on this earth, whatever your thing is, because we've all been called to do something else. Nobody take, absolutely, Toya. And so in this space, as opposed to saying, I have to eat healthy, I have to exercise, I have to go to bed early, I have to drink water. It is, I get to do all these things because I've been blessed with a finite amount of time on this earth. And while I'm here, I need to maximize every moment that I've been assigned to. And I can only do that when I'm honoring the space that I have. So when we talked about the last few weeks, the silent killers, we're going to talk about some of the foods that sometimes can irritate our systems. And these are the foods that can cause 100. Hey, Cuzzo, how you doing? And so we're going to talk about foods that can cause inflammation. And when we talk about inflammation, we're talking about things that can be contributing factors to high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. These are things that if we don't learn to become more mindful of, can lead to other things. Will it always be the case? No. But for some people, it can be. So the first thing we need to be mindful of is added sugars. Let me get my demo. Did you know that the average American consumes 17 teaspoons of sugar a day? That's the equivalent of this. I hope you see it. That's the equivalent of you eating 17 of these throughout the day. That's you sitting down every day. Girl, sugar is evil. The average American, which means all of us, 17 additional teaspoons a day. And I know you're saying, well, what am I supposed to have? 6? Yeah. 6? You're just supposed to have 6. But on average, we're right here. 17. but on average, we're supposed to have 6. And the thing about it is that what makes it hard to say you're going to cut sugar is that sugar is in basically everything. Added sugars is in everything. So it's difficult for me to say avoid all sugars, but I will say limit and be careful, because a lot of times it's not just listed as sugar. Sometimes it's listed as fructose, sucrose. If it ends in an OCE, it's probably sugar. So what they've done is that they've started giving sugar snazzy little names. So it may be fructose. So you're saying, I don't have sugar in my diet, but you're eating fructose. And so a lot of times you say, well, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. But it's in breads, granola bars, salad dressings. So a lot of times a word of caution that I give people is that even though you may be eating a snack that's deemed healthy, it may also have a lot of sugar. Because what happens when you start ingesting a lot of sugar, it gives you energy. However, over time, it leads to weight gain and insulin resistance, because our bodies were not designed to process that much sugar every day. So again, unintentionally, 17 teaspoons a day is what we can accidentally consume all day. That's between everything that we're picking. And we're only supposed to have 6. And so again, things that can cause 1 teaspoon. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so that's how quick and insidious it is. And that's how easy it will add up, Angelica. And thank you for that tidbit. It is just that quick how it will add up. So if you had, not throwing shade enough, if you had a Pop-Tart for breakfast, then you turned around and with your lunch you had fast food, then you topped it off with a soda, then you had a candy bar that afternoon because you hit the wall, then that afternoon for dinner you had some Kool-Aid or some sweet tea, sugar gone. You automatically hit right here. And that is how it gets us. Now, I know you're just going to say, well, what about natural sugars? Natural sugars found in fruit and dairy do not typically spike your blood sugar as quickly because it contains fiber and lean protein that can slow digestion. So be mindful of natural sugars, which are already in foods, is when you start adding sugar, because I'm gonna tell my story, because y'all know I'm transparent. When I was little, used to eat the Frosted Flakes because they were great. And even though Frosted Flakes had the sugar, I will still pour sugar on top of sugar. And then get to school, sitting there bouncing off the wall because I was hyper as all hyper. And then you crash. Now you do that in the morning when you get that big cup of coffee with a lot of sugar, then you crash. And then what do? You go to work, go to somebody's snack jar, or if you're at home, girl, Frosted Flakes are life. Then now if you're at home, you just walk back to the kitchen because it's a cycle. The next thing, it's the sugar. It's the sugar. The next thing, red and processed meats. And every time I think about red meats, I think about a story that my mama told me, but that's for another day. Now, processed meats are those that have been salted, cured, fermented, or smoked for flavor or preservational purposes. These are red meats because they are problematic because they are high in saturated fat, which can lead to inflammation. Examples of processed meat: bacon, hot dogs, meat jerkies, pepperoni, salami, sausage, and some deli meats. And if you in Alabama, Conecuh sausage. Love you, bye. Now, why red and processed meats? Why do they cause inflammation? Because a lot of times, the higher the intake, they can lead to cancer, heart disease, and stroke, which all goes in hand with inflammation. No, Wendy, not the left side with the Kaneka. No. Look, Kaneka is everything. And the thing about it is, if you're eating certain things like this is how you know your body is screaming at you to do something different. If after you eat this and you start getting sick, that's probably your body saying, I don't want this. Can you please stop? Because I'm getting sick. I don't want no more hot dogs because I'm getting sick. Because I was in the store today, and if you can get a pack of hot dogs with some weenies, WEENEES, weenies for $1, you get 8 weenies for $1. Be scared. Be very scared. Be very afraid that you can get a pack of hot dogs with 8 weenies for $1. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Because there's no telling what's in it, but I can tell you what ain't in it: nutrition. So be mindful of that. Again, I'll never tell you to go full on restriction. This is for educational and awareness purposes, to be aware that these things can lead to inflammation. So I know you're saying, well, what am I supposed to do? One thing that's really popular right now is meatless Mondays. Go meatless once or twice a week. Or limit meals that feature meat to once a day, which means throughout the day you could be plant-based. But for your dinner or your lunch, that could be the one where you have meat. What I normally do is that I am down to eating turkey and chicken and salmon. Those are my primary meats, the proteins that I take in. Turkey, salmon, and chicken. That was my choice, because those things that I just listed were making me sick. And I had to make a decision to either keep consuming something that was making me sick or have the courage to let that go. And when I'm referring to that, I'm not always talking about food. Okay. Another thing that often makes us sick, and everybody's favorite, carbs. Not just, I'm talking about the bad carbs, the refined carbs. And refined carbs are normally things that are primarily white flour products, including your breads and rolls, Hawaiian, crackers, French fries, sugary cereals, Frosted Flakes, white rice. Those things that are made primarily from white flour products. Because what it does is that it's similar to added sugars, because it does nothing, because nothing slows their breakdown. Once it hits your bloodstream, it spikes your blood sugar. And the elevated blood sugar creates an inflammatory response. So what happens is your body's trying to remove the sugar from its system, and so it's creating inflammation. Your body's like, red alert, I need to get this out of my system. So that's when you may start feeling sick to your stomach. You may start feeling headachy. You may just feel diseased, because your body's telling you that these are things that I cannot process. These are things that I don't want. And if you bought those weenies for $1, it's going to be a long day for you. A really long night, because that's your body saying, I don't want this. Now, I know I can't have this. I can't have this. Well, what can I have? And you know what the answer is? The good stuff. Because for me, it's the good stuff. Because when I had to make the own decision in my own personal journey to turn away from certain foods, to turn away from a lot of the refined carbs, I started feeling better. Because majority of our dis-ease comes from what we eat. And a lot of times, the solution is not in the medicine cabinet. The solution is in the refrigerator. The solution is in the vegetables, the fruits, and the things that we pick. That is a lot of times our healthy solution. And the thing about it is, it's not the sexy solution. It's not a quick one and done. It's not something that you can just do it 1 week and you're finished. But the reality is, when this inflammation keeps going day in and day out, we're opening ourselves up to conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's. All these things have been linked to chronic inflammation. And I know you said before, you said, well, our ancestors ate it and they were okay. How do you know? Our ancestors weren't given a choice in their diet. They had to make the best choices they could with what they had. They literally made a delicacy out of chitterlings, pig intestines, because that's what they had to do. So in this space of going forward, as I prefaced earlier, what are you going to do about it to change the narrative for your destiny? Because a lot of times when we talk about being wealthy, we equate it to material stuff. But how can you enjoy whatever wealth you're praying about when you're not physically able to enjoy it? When you have little ones and you want to take them to the water park, and you want to take them hiking and to the zoo, and you physically can't make it across the park. I went to a water park. I took my niece a few years ago, and it was heartbreaking to see parents that could not walk the length of the water park. And it was roughly about 3/4 of a mile. So if you are in a space where you can't do all those things, it may be time to have an introspective conversation with yourself to say, I'm better than this and I deserve a better outlook. So we've already talked about foods that cause inflammation: the refined carbs, the French fries, the sodas, red meat. All those things can cause inflammation. Now, what about things that I can have? Well, I am so glad you asked, Latoya, because I saw the circle over your head. Things that we can have, the sexy stuff. Our ancestors also had foods. Yes, 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 ma'am. A lot of our ancestors had gardens where they grew their own food. They were more nutrient dense. A lot of the foods right now, because of how it's being controlled by conglomerates, a lot of foods are not as nutritionally dense as they used to be. So fast food was not always an option. Certainly DoorDash wasn't an option. So you had no choice but to take your time and prepare your meals. As Angelica also said, they moved around more. We have become a sedentary environment. A few weeks ago, I did some research and found out that over 75% of Americans do not eat vegetables and they don't eat fruit. And I'm here to tell you, if you're over a certain age, that ain't a flex. If you are over the age of 30 and you're saying you don't drink water, you don't exercise, you don't eat fruits, you don't eat vegetables, that ain't a flex. That's very problematic. That ain't a flex to say you don't eat fruit. That ain't a flex to say you don't eat nobody's vegetables. Because what are you eating other than crab legs and shrimp? I said it. What are you consuming if you're not eating? That means 1/4 of the population is eating fruits and vegetables. If you're not drinking water, eating fruits, eating vegetables, what in the world are you consuming? And I mean that out of just true curiosity, because how does your day flow? Because that means you're probably lethargic. That means you probably have headaches. That means you have body aches. That means your joints hurt. That means you're probably constipated. You're not having regular movements like you should. Everything in your life is having situations because you're not giving your body what it deserves. So anti-inflammatory things, green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kale, collards, nuts, almonds and walnuts, fatty fish. And we're talking about fatty fish. It's the salmon, mackerel, tuna, and if you like them, sardines, fruits such as strawberries, blueberries, cherries, and oranges. It comes down to the more colorful your dinner plate is, excuse me, the more nutrient rich your diet will probably be. If everything on your plate is in a shade of brown with some gravy on it and there's no vegetables on it, we may need to change the narrative, because the benefits of this is that it looks at letting the body heal itself naturally. It gives your avocado. Yes, ma'am, it sure is. And the thing about an avocado is that it's in that weird space where it's a, I saw this little meme that says it's a good fat. Avocados are a good fat. And I have a love, hate relationship with avocados. They're great as guacamole, but by itself, I struggle, but I'm open to try. And it comes down to having the courage to try something different. Because if what hasn't worked for you in the past, there's no need to keep going down that road right now. If you notice that these things right now aren't working, it's important for us to change the narrative of what does work. And that doesn't mean that you just have to go to the grocery store and load up on stuff you haven't tasted. I've always said, before you stock up, buy the many things first and start sampling to figure out what you like. Before you buy the big thing of almond milk, buy the little one to see if you like it. Try oat milk, because if you're having problems with regular milk, the almond milk or the oat milk may be a solution for you to consider. But it comes down to having the courage and the intentionality to try. Because again, things to be mindful of are the added sugars in our diets. Be careful if it ends in oats, because it may not just say sugar. It may say fructose, which is another word for sugar. Be mindful of the processed meats, the things that you know can make you sick. And to recap those things, let me go find them again. Your bacon, your hot dogs, jerkies, pepperoni, salami, Conecuh sausage, and some deli meats. Again, I'm not telling you to go cold turkey, but what I'm encouraging you to do to structure your diet where you're increasing more of the plant-based goodies to give your body what it needs to function at its optimal level. Because again, as I opened up earlier, if we take the time to get our vehicle service, to make sure everything's running at optimal level, we deserve that same compassion for ourselves. And so if you haven't done that before, first, give yourself some space and grace, because if you don't know, you just don't know. This was an education process for myself too. So if you don't know, you just don't know. But as we all grow and move, sugar, yes, ma'am, it surely will. As Cynthia, if you didn't see the comment, says sugar lowers our immune system also. It sure does. And so if you're in a space where you find yourself always getting sick, you may have to take a moment to figure out, what also am I consuming? Because a lot of things, like I said before, heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes all have similar conditions. And so sometimes if you go to the doctor for one, it becomes Pandora's box, because they all mirror the same things. So I'm encouraging you, as you start your diet, because even though it's March, Tuesday's March. As we go into another month, it's still not too late to try something new. It doesn't have to be grand. Start with baby steps. If you've never tried salmon before, try salmon. If you've never cooked your greens different, try a different way, because it comes down to making the decision to try. Now, I will say, as you start moving into a new space of cooking and preparing foods different, your palate will have to change. Your palate has to adjust itself, because if you're used to having a lot of fried foods, a lot of foods with gravy and hot sauces and everything else, your palate has to change. So give yourself that adjustment space to get used to having foods in its more natural state. because the first time I had broccoli without all the cheese, I was just like, what's happening? But now I have an affinity for it and I love it that way. So there are a lot of foods that I used to have them laden in something. I now prefer in this natural state. And even being in the South, I know we call unsweet tea the Antichrist. I lean towards now more of the unsweet tea because if it's too sweet, I get sick. Where I don't eat a lot of, I don't drink soft drinks. The last time I had one, it made me sick on my stomach. But I needed to take a aspirin, so that's all I had available in that space. So as you start changing and your palate starts cleanse itself, it's okay if it tastes weird at first. Now there's a difference between being nasty and just you getting adjusted to it. Because as you start adjusting to certain foods, you may discover that all these years you had it covered in gravy and salt and everything else, it's okay where it is. So give yourself the permission to try some things. You may discover you love asparagus and that you hate Brussels sprouts. You may discover that you love quinoa and that you hate something else. And that's okay because it's your journey. So as we go into a new month and you are aware that you may be having some things that are making you sick, have the courage to say, you know what, I'm consuming too much sugar. I got to start doing a meatless Monday. I need to hit the reset button on my body to let it perform at its optimal level. You know, like when we go get the oil change and when they put the fresh filter in, the fresh oil in, they hit the reset button and you get a brand new sticker that shows you are good. This is your chance to hit the reset button and let your body perform at its optimal level, Clarence. Coconut water is good. Coconut water is great. There are so many different brands of coconut water, and you just kind of have to experiment to figure out what works for you. Because again, this is your personal journey. So all of our likes and dislikes are going to be different, but have the courage to try. Y'all, that's yes, ma'am, the reset button. Just like when we go and they give us that little sticker that says you're good for X amount of miles, hit the reset button and reset everything. Flush your system out with water, more fruits, more vegetables, more plant-based, and all the things that you've been buying products to purge your system, your body will begin doing naturally. So instead of having to go buy a detox kit, once you start changing your diet, your body's like, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. Hit the reset button. So that is all that I have. Next week will be the Entrepreneur Spotlight. I have an amazing guest. I'm going to confirm with her this week. So stay tuned. I have another one already lined up in April. You're going to love both of them. Thank you so much for rocking with me today. And as always, if you have any questions or insights that you would like to share or any topics you would like for us to visit, send me a DM and I will be happy to have a chat with you. Thank y'all so much. If you are on the Gulf Coast in New Orleans, enjoy Mardi Gras. If you are in Mobile, if you can find the crew that's throwing the leprechaun, you know. If you're in Mobile, if you know, you know. Give me a leprechaun. I want the leprechaun. If you find the crew that's throwing the little leprechaun one, I want a leprechaun. Enjoy Skinny Monday. Enjoy Fat Tuesday. Have a great week, and I will see y'all later.